Okay, so after this, interestingly enough, you went to America and you caught CLG. And this was the one where people remember they had like JDM and Tarek, a lot of the classic names, if you remember back then. And listen, this team, it wasn't like, let's look at the players. Like these aren't, obviously you didn't win the major, but you did have, I will say, you got them to the top 8 of the major though, which was significant. You were even in a group where you beat Envious, who was the reigning major champions. Like, how do you remember your time with CLG? Because I remember this period, like that was a great result. There was a couple of other times you were maybe close, you could have done something here and there. But then later on, there was that whole weird thing where, like, didn't you like make yourself a player in the team towards the end? So give me some thoughts on the CLG time.
Okay. Yeah, so the CLG time was, I remember it was Tarek who wrote to me on Twitter, and he said, like, are you up to maybe be a coach for us? I was like, yeah, sure, we can have a discussion. So he said, yeah, right now I'm playing the World Cup national teams with the USA. I'm here with the JDM. I was like, in my mind, I was like, I didn't have any information on the NA scene except from Cloud9 at that time. I knew little about the iBuyPower guys, but CLG had no idea who they were. So he told me like, okay, can we have a talk? Yeah, so we talked on Skype, and JDM was in the room, and we spoke a little bit. And afterwards, they ended up me talking with the management, and we managed to settle like a pretty decent salary. That salary was enough for me to leave the job, because one of the things also with this job was that I got the opportunity to move to Los Angeles.
Sure.
Always been like a dream for me to live in the States and try that life. And I was young, and the people who worked with me in the bank was a bit older than me, and they told me like, okay, you don't have family, you don't have kids, like this is the perfect time for you to try this, do it. Like the bank will always be here if you want to come back, just go and do that. So I took that chance and I moved to the US, and it was like a very fun experience for me to go there. As you said, we had some decent results. There was the first time CLG made it to a legend status in the major. We did beat Envious at that major. We had some decent results on some different tournaments after that. Regarding when I stepped in as a player, that's a topic that has never, I think I've never discussed openly. But the thing is like this. We were at DreamHack Austin in 2016, I do believe.
Yes.
Yeah. So we were playing that tournament. And that was the tournament when Summit had his famous, when he killed himself on train.
The 1G, round. Yeah.
Exactly.
Sure.
That was the tournament against us. But in that moment, I thought that we needed to replace Fugly. It wasn't like in the actual tournament, okay, we need to replace him right now. It was like he might need to work extra, or we need to replace him. Because individually he had a role where he was some sort of a supportive player, but he still had the expectations on him to actually like perform. He didn't need to be like a top player, but he needs to get his kills. He had that kind of position in the team. Because Hazed and Cutler, they were like full support players, while Tarek and Jaden were the star players, and Fugly was like the link between those two different kind of play styles. So what happened was that during that tournament, all of a sudden, Freakazoid, who previously played in Cloud9, I think he was still contracted to Cloud9, but he got benched after the Columbus Major. So in Austin, he told me like, yo, can we talk? I was like, sure. So he said like, I'm interested to join up with you guys. If you have a spot for me, I will be down to play. I was like, yeah, let's talk. So me and him went up to the roof on the hotel. We had a pool. So it was like in the evening. I remember he had a glass because he was chewing tobacco, like not snooze, but the American style. So I remember him sitting and like spitting in that fucking cup all the time during our talk. But we sat there for like an hour. We had like a beer or something. We just sat and spoke, and he said like, I'm down to come over. So in that time, Freakazoid was considered in NA to be like one of the, like, he was a decent player. He had firepower. I spoke a little bit with Tarek about it and JDM, and I was like, yeah, if we can get him, we should get him. I think we will become much better. So I spoke to him a little bit more, and everything was like basically set. He was just for him to sign the contract. But at that time, EchoFox was a organization in NA that was supported by that basketball player, Rick Fox.
Yes.
And they also got into the actual, trying to get Freakazoid. And at this time, I think Freakazoid did act a bit wrong, because what happened was that when he spoke to me, I got the sense that he was willing to join like right now. He just needs to sign the papers. So I told Fugly that, okay, Fugly, you know what? We're going to go in a different direction, blah, 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 blah. We're going to take in Freakazoid. He was like, okay. Obviously, he wasn't happy with the decision and all that. He said, like, is there anything different that I can do to stay here? Like, for me, it was like, it was very, very hard when I had that talk with him, because he's a very like kind guy, and when he said stuff like that, is there anything that I can do to stay? No, I just wanted to go out and shoot myself in the head, because I can't deal with those kind of situations, because I just feel like the bad guy. But I knew that if we were to go further than being a top 8 team at the major, we need to have more firepower. So I had to just focus on being professional and say, like, no, we have already decided to bring in Freakazoid. We're going to go with him. So it's like, okay, so he left the gaming house that we lived in LA. He went back home. And all of a sudden, Freakazoid started to demand more salary from CLG, because EchoFox was putting up the numbers. I don't know exactly what the numbers were, but I do believe like EchoFox gave him $7,000 or $8,000 a month, while CLG were giving him like 5,000 ish at that time. They couldn't give him more because they didn't have like the financial to do that, but also if they bring in a new player and that player earns twice as much as the other player, then they knew that it would mean eventually that the other players would come and knock on the door and say, hey, we want also the same salary that he has, because that was the mentality. Like in the US, a lot about like discussions about the money. So what happened was that prior to the tournament that we were going to, I think it was E-League, in the last minute, Freakazoid said, no, I'm going with EchoFox. So we were left there, we're like, okay, who are we going to bring in? And we got some, like, should we bring back Fugly, or should we bring in another, like, a different player? And the players that we could bring in wasn't that good. I remember I reached out to Nico, who plays in G2 today. I asked him, do you want to come over? And he was young at that time. I don't think his parents wanted him to go. Maybe it was also just a professional from him that, no, I don't want to join CLG. I'm going to stay in mouse sports. So I tried to reach out to European players, and then I remember I contacted Michael Lille and asked him, do you want to come? And he was like, yeah, I'm down to come. But JDM was the offer, and he was very against the fact to bring in Michael Lille. Right. I do believe maybe the reason why he didn't want to bring him was because he was afraid that his role was going to get picked off. And I told him that, no, we will put Michael Lille on the rifler position, you play her up. But he wasn't buying into that. He was very eager to keep his position in the team. And then I do believe it was JDM who said, why can't we just try to play with you? And I said, I remember that I said that I will not, I can decide on who will play if we bring in a new player, but I will not as a coach decide if I should play. So it's up to you guys. And then Tarek and JDM, and I believe Cutler or Hayes, I don't know, 3 of them wanted to play with me, and one was more like, maybe we should try someone else. But we did play, and we did good in practice, and we won some official games online, and we went to E-League. And at this time also, JDM had been offered a contract from Liquid. So we were in a position where we knew that, okay, JDM is going to leave in a month, to bring in a new player and try to play him up in the team, and then lose JDM and bring in another. It was like just a dead period for the team, basically. And that's why I stayed as a player during that time. And the majors, for the majors, you had to sign what players would play, so you could not do that, player swaps. So, yeah, so I've read some people said that I took the place in CLG, but that wasn't the case. If Freakazoid would have signed with us, then the Freakazoid would have been the player in CLG at that time, but he decided to go with Echo Fox in the last minute, and we didn't have any other opportunity. So yeah, that was my CLG experience, basically.